First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rachah Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 30th chapter. He that loveth his son causeth him oft to feel the rod. The rod is basically you would be beat or whipped, to be corrected. It's not just you just get up one day and just start whooping his ass. But if you love him, that's the disciplinary measure. Mainly in the ancient world, mainly that's the disciplinary measure because it's pain, right? But in doing so, it says what? That he may have joy of him in the end. So at the end, when your son, knows, right, is taught, hey, not to do that, not to do this, not to do that. Because pain is a very, very, very powerful and motivating factor, especially as a child. So it instills and drives out bad habits and instills righteous habits from a youth that will stick to them. He that chastiseth his son shall have joy in him. Because you chastise your son when they do something wrong, right? So eventually they're going to stop doing those wrongs and start doing right. And that's going to bring you joy. And shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance, right? You'll be able to speak well, and really brag even, right, of the accolades and the accomplishments of your son or your child, because they were brought up the correct way. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, because, well, it's gonna actually tell us, if you are an upright man and you teach your son the proper ways, you grieve the enemy, because now you're leaving behind someone else that is upright like you. And if everybody in the society was like that, the enemy would have no way to be able to get in, right, to destroy you, because you are teaching your sons the right way. You're bringing them up in the right way, right? They know. So right now, like if you look in today's society, the number one enemy that has destroyed our people, carnally, that is Esau. And he used deception to go after the children, the youth, corrupt their minds. But we that are being taught now, it's grieving him because it's breaking that deceptive spell that he has cast. And he no longer is able to have control over the people if they're now being taught, wising up, because he baited Israel and continues to bait them with wickedness. But the more they know, the more they abstain from that. And before his friends he shall rejoice of him, that is his son. Though his father die, yet he is as though he were not dead. You see? Why? Because he left, it says, for he hath left one behind him that is like himself. So by properly disciplining your child and instilling your principles in them, which is the right way, when you die, it's like you're still there. It's like when Mufasa died and Simba steps into his shoes. While he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him. And when he died, he was not sorrowful. That is the father. He left behind him an avenger against his enemies, like David did with Solomon, right? Where he gave him basically a list on his deathbed. Hey, this person did me wrong. That person did this. That makes sure you get them all. And one that shall requite kindness to his friends. And that requires like to repay kindness to his friends. So, you'll remember, yeah, such and such did this for me. Make sure you bless them or do this for them. He that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds, and his bowels will be troubled at every cry. All right, let's take a look at that in the GNTD. It says, but anyone who spoils his son will have to bandage his wounds. His heart will stop every time he hears a shout. Okay, or in other words, for bandage his wounds is going to be hurt, because you're not disciplining him, you're spoiling him. Verse 8, an horse not broken becometh headstrong. Broken meaning, like you break it in, right? You get it accustomed to having somebody riding it. It becomes headstrong, right? It does that thing where it launches whoever tries to mount it off. But once you break it in, you show who's boss. You mount it and stay on it long enough, it'll eventually submit to you. And a child left to himself will be willful. Right? If you don't discipline him and you let him do whatever he wants to do, he'll become willful because nobody ever put him in check. Conquer thy child, and he shall make thee afraid. Play with him, and he will bring thee to heaviness. And when you conquer him, it's like pampering him, making you afraid, meaning that he's going to grow and he's not going to respect your authority. Okay? If you play with him, right, you have people that say, oh, my mom is my best friend. My dad is my best friend. No, you're supposed to fear and respect your parents. Because, that whole best friend, eventually, what happens if there's a disagreement? What happens if they tell you no, or they tell you got to do something? You got to respect them as your parent. See? So as a parent, if you are not, instilling proper discipline and fear in your child, they're going to eventually, as it says, bring you to heaviness. Laugh not with him, lest thou have sorrow with him. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't laugh with your child at all. What it means is don't be their laughing buddy. It's all buddy, laughter. Everything is laughing giggles. They're not going to take you seriously. And when you try to discipline them, they're not going to, submit to your authority and bring you sorrow, unless thou gnash thy teeth in the end, right? And that's through regret. Give him no liberty in his youth, and wink not at his folly. So don't tolerate, certain things. Don't give him too much freedom, because all these things, those are the crucial years. Because once you're gone, or once they're old enough, what's going to keep them in check are the things that the way you brought them up, the things you taught them when they were young. So that's the crucial time, because eventually they'll get old enough to have that liberty. But as a child, when folly is still in them, you need to drive out that folly. So don't wink at his follies. Don't just turn a blind eye to it. No. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child. Right? When you bow down his neck, you're basically you discipline him. You have him be subject to you, and you beat him on the sides when he is a child. This is when they do something wrong. This is not saying you just go up. I mean, that should be common sense, right? You just go up and, hey, lift up your arm. Wham, wham. No. Lest he wax stubborn and be disobedient unto thee, and so bring sorrow to thy heart. Chastise thy son and hold him to labor, right? Put him to work. Let him work. Lest his lewd behavior be an offense unto thee, right? So discipline your son and give him work to do, or else he will be an embarrassment to you. Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution, that is his body, than a rich man that is afflicted in his body. You can be super, super rich, but you filled with all these infections and diseases and wounds. You can't even enjoy your riches. Somebody may not be as rich, they may be poor, but they're healthy, they're sound, they're good. Yeah, they're happy. Be healthy, be happy. Health and good estate of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth. You can be the richest man alive, but you're full of diseases, you're miserable. So having good health, all right, is above all gold. There is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the heart. Just talking about carnal riches here. Okay? Imagine, somebody that's say like, severely, bound with infirmities. If they're rich, they give up, at least if they're wise, they give up all their riches if they could just have a sound body, because they know what it's like to suffer, going through, a body that's of weak constitution. It says here, and no joy above the joy of the heart, of the mind. A death is better than a bitter life of continual sickness. See, there's certain infirmities and sicknesses that, it's so miserable. You wake up every day and it's a battle. Right? You feel like, it had been better if you were dead. That's how painful it is to live with that kind of problem or infirmity. Delicates poured upon a mouth shut up are messes of meat set upon a grave. Okay, and let's read this here in the GNTD, verse 18. It says, the finest foods mean nothing if you are too sick to eat it. It might as well be, placed on a grave. See that? 19, what good doeth the offering unto an idol? neither can it eat nor smell. So is he that is persecuted of the Lord. Right? Persecuted meaning like one that is stricken by the Lord in judgment of some infirmity, right? Or afflicted. You're likened unto, an idol that can't eat or smell, right? Or drink. He seeth with his eyes and groaneth as an eunuch that embraceth a virgin and and sigheth. Why? Because a eunuch, I'm reading the GNTD, it says he looks at his food and sighs, right? This is the one that's been afflicted, like a castrated man hugging a young woman. He sighs because, he could if he would if he could, but he can't. You get, if you know, you know. Okay, it says here, give not, so he desires to have it, but he can't. Just like one, who is struck by the Lord in infirmities. Give not over thy mind to heaviness, and afflict not thyself in thine own counsel. Right? So don't give your mind to the depressive thoughts. Right? Don't do that to yourself. The gladness of the heart is the life of man. And this is your mind, right? Your mind. Because sorrow of the mind kills. And the joyfulness of a man prolongeth his days, right? You live longer when you're happier. Love thine own soul and comfort thy heart. Remove sorrow far from thee, for sorrow hath killed many, and there is no profit therein. Right? That depressive spirit, for what? Focus on the things you do have. Focus on the brighter side. Okay, it's healthier because that sorrowful mind can actually lead to being physically ill. Envy and wrath shorten the life, and carefulness, which is stress, bringeth age before the time. That's where you get the saying that stress ages you. A cheerful and good heart will have a care of his meat and diet. Okay, a cheerful person with a good attitude will have a good appetite and enjoy his food. Okay, and he's going to watch what he eats too. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 30th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.